Harassment at Work Bill 2025, and I'm pleased to follow many great contributions today. And in particular, I want to acknowledge the member for Narrabeen's contribution where he said that the government has got this bill right, and the member for Narrabeen is absolutely right on that one. This bill is so important, especially with the occasion this week of National Survivors Day, which occurred on Wednesday, the 12th of November. And I wish to firstly acknowledge the lived experience of victim survivors, and it takes a lot of bravery and strength to decide to speak out about these experiences, and victim survivors should be able to make that decision on their own terms, and they should not be restricted by non-disclosure agreements, and we need to shift the burden away from the shame and stigma of abuse from victim survivors to perpetrators. And I want to give, and it's already been done by many of the contributions, I want to give a shout out to the mighty Victorian Trades Hall Council for driving this issue, but also the many unions that have been involved. And without those unions' involvement and protecting their members, we would not even be at this position today. So congratulations to the Trades Hall Council and the trade unions that have driven this issue. Certainly during my time as the Secretary of the Ambulance Union, I knew of many instances of non-disclosure agreements being used in settlement cases with the ambulance service and also some of the private operators of the non-emergency patient transport system. And a lot of these non-disclosure agreements meant that neither party could discuss the details with anyone of the settlement or speak disparagingly about each other. And it was so restrictive to the victims and so damaging to the victims that they couldn't talk about the circumstances. It was always a way of the employers hiding the facts and the details of what was going on within their workplace, and the perpetrators technically still getting away with it. It was a regular occurrence in the ambulance service, unfortunately, and we know it's a regular occurrence in many workplaces. So, of course, in some cases, there are no settlements to these issues and the complaints made by the complainants and the victims unless there is an NDA that's agreed to. And we see some of these issues that ended up in the Fair Work Commission, and again, confidential settlements, effectively an NDA out of the Fair Work Commission when you take a dispute to the Commission over these matters. And I'm pleased to say that hopefully that will change. Of course, in 2022, the Australian Human Rights Commission found that around 1 in 3 workers had experienced workplace sexual harassment in the preceding 5 years. And we know that workplace sexual harassment disproportionately affects young people, LGBTIQA plus people, First Nations people and people with a disability. And we also know that sexual harassment in all contexts is a heavily gendered issue. And in the workplace, more than 50% of women who have experienced sexual harassment have reported that they've suffered damage to their work, and 26% say it has a negative impact on their career progression. Again, and people have referred to it that it's definitely a power imbalance, let alone the effect on their mental health issues and the mental injuries that this causes. Of course, up until now, the use of NDAs was relatively unregulated, but that's changing because of this bill and changing for the better. And these changes protect the agency of claimants. It gives them power to take action in the way that they decide. It ensures that no one is rushing into a decision that they will be stuck with for the rest of their life. And these reforms will work towards reducing, well, we hope it will, reducing sexual harassment in the workplace, but more so it will force employers to do something about it and to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. Of course, the reputation of perpetrators should never be more important than the health, safety and welfare of victim survivors. The repeated use of NDAs does not allow for the prevention of further incidents at the same workplace. It is a betrayal to all workers who have the right to work in an environment free from sexual harassment. And all workers have the right to be safe at work. And of course, that's why we're restricting the circumstances in which NDAs relating to workplace sexual harassment can be entered into. And if there must be an NDA, then restricting the terms and enforceability of those NDAs relating to workplace sexual harassment. Of course, there's many international examples of the regulations or banning of NDAs, such as in Ireland, where NDAs are regulated based on a model centred on the choice of a victim's survivors, in the UK and in various states in the US, where there are a range of approaches from limitations to complete bans of NDAs in work-related situations. Of course, the victim survivor or the complainant, it is their express wish and experience to have an NDA rather than have one imposed upon them and be intimidated and forced into it. And it's a critical step in working to break the old culture of NDAs being proposed as a default clause in a settlement. So it's driven by the victim, the claimant, rather than the other way. So there's a shift in balance and a shift in power imbalance back to the affected person, which is a great thing. This is a really important bill that the Allan Labor government brings forward as another example of supporting workers and supporting their representatives, the trade union movement. I know there is a waiver provision after 12 months, and I know some employers may have concerns about the waiver and how this could impact then after 12 months if a claimant wants to change their mind about the NDA. But I say to employers, they shouldn't have a concern about a waiver if they are proactive on making sure that sexual harassment doesn't occur in the workplace. And I'd love to see employers be far more stringent and stronger and make their workplace sexual harassment free rather than worrying about the potential of a 12-month waiver. This is an important bill and I commend this bill to the House.